This is Comic Geek Speak, episode 1639, Off the Rack Reviews.
You got it on Wednesday, and you was talking about it going to the volume up. These guys will talk about it, everything the geeks love. From tapes to laser beams, opinions like the seasons on everything you read. And comics, movies, games, toys, artists, Comic Geek Speak, Comic Geek Speak, Comic Geek Speak, Comic Geek Speak, Comic Geek. Uniting the world's mightiest heroes. This is...
I'm Brian Chrisman.
I'm Adam Murdo.
And I'm Chris Epperly.
Yeah, so I can hear you rumbling around there with your moving around and your gesticulating and everything as I stumble trying to find the music here. And, hang on. There we go. I'm sorry, I was just...
Extra long.
I had it blocked over.
Anyway.
Anyway.
But Chris is very distracting, you know.
Yes, I'm sure.
Watching him shaking his moneymaker on camera here, you know. See, the picture breaks up a little bit, Chris, which creates this fascinating strobe effect.
Really?
To your gyrations.
See, the audience listening at home doesn't know what they're missing.
Oh, my.
I don't even know what we're missing, so it's only for Murd.
I feel sorry for all of you.
Anyway, welcome to the show. In this episode, we'll be going over we call Off the Racks, just some recent comics that some of us have all read. I don't usually join in these, but I actually have read one of the books. I want to talk about it. Where we pre-selected some books from the past previews. And in this episode, we'll be talking about Thanos #1 from Marvel. Motor Girl #1 from, is it Abstract Studios, I believe?
Mm-hmm. Correct. Yep.
Barry Morris.
Correct.
Those were ones that were chosen by the group at large, and then actually, I guess you guys decided on individual books. Mm-hmm. And
yes,
which one are you talking about, Adam?
I have here the Batman Annual #1 of the current post-Flashpoint iteration of Batman.
Okay, the new Rebirth, I guess.
Oh yes, it is bannered DC Universe
Okay.
Rebirth Annual. So yeah.
And Chris, what is your choice?
And I, Honey Pants, I have Avengers #1.1. By Wade and Kitson.
Actually, that's what I thought, because I have that one also.
Oh, terrific.
All right, so those are the ones that we talk about. So, spoilers, forewarned is forearmed if you don't want to listen to the episode, or let's do it later, and maybe some other things we'll talk about. But first, a word from our sponsor. This episode of Comic Geek Speak is brought to you by the fine folks at superherostuff.com, where you go to for all of your superhero stuff. Chris, we just gotta work on your timing and everything, or just
got to come together right now. Over pants.
Get a better. I don't know. We've lost control already. Well, anyway. superherostuff.com you go to for all of your geek needs, whether you're looking for T-shirts, hats, hoodies, PJs and undies, belts, accessories, from any geekdom, whether it's comics, sci-fi, movies, TV, whatever, they've got it. Some of their new items I will go over here. They have a couple new books here I see. DC Comics Kids' Big Book of Superpowers and the Big Book of Girl Power. And this is kind of cool. They have a DC Comics superhero cookbook with cookie cutters of the Superman, Flash, and Batman logos. Oh, excellent. I mean,
well,
I guess you can make cookies all year round, but I'm more of a Christmas cookie person.
Oh, no, cookies are timeless.
They sure are. If it weren't for cookies, I have no personality whatsoever.
No.
Of course, all your favorite TV shows, I got Arrow, Flash, merchandise. And with it being, as we record this close to Valentine's Day, they will also be having several promotionals and gift ideas for you. So always check out their website for the most current discount codes and coupons, or subscribe to their newsletter. Follow them on Facebook, Twitter. I think they even have a Tumblr. They're great. They're local to us. They're great folks. You actually will start seeing them soon at conventions across this great land of ours.
Uh-huh.
So if you see them at a con, tell them CGS sent you. Mm-hmm. They appreciate everyone's business.
Ask for Scott Powers. He'll wonder how you know his name.
So check them out. superherostuff.com. You go to for all of your
superhero stuff.
Maybe it'll all be fixed in post. I don't know.
How do you deny people my magnificent singing voice?
If you say so.
That was sarcasm, ladies and gentlemen. I cannot carry a tune to save my life.
If it had handles. All right. It wasn't that funny. My goodness, sir. Well, I appreciate the laugh track. It helps my ego a little
Oh,
bit.
come on, Pants. Rape your wit. Come on. One thing I want to point out for our audience, just so people who are keeping score at home, these books came out in November, and so we're going to catch up.
Keep score at home? I mean, really? People keep score? I can't imagine that. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
It's like the geek equivalent of a stat card of a baseball game. And we'll catch up in the near future with the books that came out in December, and then I think it was a good idea on Murd's part. We skipped January, correct, Murd?
Yes, just to
So
build in an
they
opportunity
can catch up
for us
more
to
easily.
catch up,
Yeah.
right.
So that's where we are at right now.
All right. Well, since I have it here first on my list, let's start with Thanos number 1, shall we?
All right.
Indeed.
We shall.
And I shall read the original solicit for this. From Marvel, Thanos number 1, written by Jeff Lemire, with art by Mike Deodato Jr. Evil has been unleashed on the universe, it says here in capital letters. And he goes, Thanos, possibly the most evil individual in the Marvel Universe, is back, and he's out for vengeance on all who would oppose him. Unfortunately for the Mad Titan, he's also heading for an unexpected reckoning with his family. Take an ongoing walk on the dark side of the galaxy, following the deadly trail of destruction left in the wake of Thanos. All right, and as always, we use the time-tested grading scale of buy, borrow, pants. So what are your gentlemen's ratings for this issue?
From me, it's kind of an uneasy buy.
An uneasy buy.
An
Okay.
uneasy buy.
All right.
Mine is a solid buy.
All right. Explain your uneasiness, sir.
All right. Well, it's a buy because it's Thanos, and it's fairly well done, Thanos. I'm really not complaining about this issue. It just, for me, it has sort of an overwhelmingly 90s vibe to it. You know, it's due in large part to between the third-person narrative captions, which is something I'm always kind of happy to see in comics these days because it kind of fell out of vogue for a while there. Mm-hmm. But Lemire is using it here in a way that, to this reader at least, is kind of evocative of the kind of storytelling that was going on in the 90s. And then there's Mike Deodato's artwork, which has a very...
Can I see some of that?
Oh, yes. It's got kind of a...
I remember him first from his one on Wonder Woman back in the 90s. I really enjoyed that. And
Yeah, I
don't see
remember
too much of his artwork that I haven't paid much attention to his art much anymore. But
Yeah,
looks good. Ooh, some Zipatone looking there. Oh, nice.
Yeah, I remember him from the things he did at Marvel, which included Hulk and the Avengers, I believe.
Okay. One of the Avengers series, I'm sure.
The only one there was at that time. I think West Coast had been canceled, but we're going back to like the latter days of Avengers Volume 1.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it's a recognizable style, but it's kind of. I feel like he's experimented with his style in other places, but this feels more like the kind of stuff he was doing in the 90s. It's got kind of he's inking himself, I'm pretty sure. So there's kind of a gritty scratchiness to his blacks here. I like the experimental panel grids, though. It's got kind of a Piet Mondrian quality. It's just all these
I'm sorry.
weird.
What?
He was a Dutch abstract artist.
Of course he
who worked
was.
in the early to mid 20th century, and he kind of invented this whole art style on his own. I think he called it neoplasticism or something like that.
Okay.
It was just like white canvases with these brightly colored rectangles laid out in kind of an
You're too
asymmetrical...
smart for the room, sir.
So, yeah, it's weird little rectangular panels all over the page.
Okay.
That's what I mean by that.
No, that's fine.
It's an interesting panel grid. So
It is.
That's distinctive. That's something that makes this first issue stand out. And I'm kind of interested in what's going on, the subplot with Tricos Laterus, one of the elders of the universe, also called the champion of the universe, first appeared in a Marvel 2-in-1 annual that you probably own.
I own the whole series, so I assume I own it.
Yep, so that guy with the blue skin
That
and
guy, okay.
the finger in the socket red hairdo there. He goes and finds Star Fox, Thanos' brother, and the two of them set out to gather together one or two other people to form a Thanos Busters, like a Thanos strike force to try and assassinate the Mad Titan. So that subplot is interesting to me. I like this combination of characters, and I'm interested to know who else they're going to recruit for this purpose. So I'm glued to that. But the main plot then concerns Thanos himself attempting to reclaim a part of his galactic empire, which had been taken over by one of his lieutenants, Corvus Glaive, as introduced by Jonathan Hickman in the Infinity event a couple of years ago. Infinity. And beyond. Corvus Glaive was one of the coolest new characters to come out of that event. And I don't know if we've mentioned that these are spoiler heavy, but these reviews are spoiler heavy.
We did.
Okay, good. Just
forewarned is forearmed.
Good. Thank you for that. Got our bases covered. Corvus Glaive bites it in this issue. And And I'm kind of sorry about that, because I thought he was a potentially cool character, and he barely lasts a couple of seconds in battle against his former master, who returns to reclaim this corner of his empire. And I thought the scenes between them were handled pretty well by writer Jeff Lemire, but Thanos is a very difficult character to write. He's complex, he's nuanced. He may be one of the most evil beings in the Marvel Universe, but it's not simplistic, absolute evil. Thanos occasionally has internal conflicts. He doesn't always behave in the way you'd expect a one-dimensional, straight-ahead, megalomaniacal master villain to behave. So it's a difficult personality to capture. And Lemire does some things very well in this issue in that regard. But as far as the conflict with Corvus Glaive goes, I'm not 100% convinced that Thanos would even really bother that much to reclaim this little, what is it called, the Black Quadrant from Corvus Glaive. I think of him as saying more like, okay, let Glaive have this little toy of mine. I've outgrown it. I no longer need this empire anyway. I have other plans in mind. So I'm not sure why Thanos is so determined to reclaim this place and why he feels he needs to kill Glaive to do it. It just, yeah. And the things that Thanos says in the course of reclaiming the quadrant and killing Glaive sound on point for Thanos' character. It's just I'm not sure why he would even do that. And then at the very end, when we discover, another big spoiler here, that Thanos, worshipper of death, is dying. And he's, you see a scene of him without his headgear, bleeding from his nose all over his hands.
Ooh.
This look of horror on his face.
Wow.
I'm also not sure that that's how Thanos would react to the knowledge that he's dying and that he's bleeding from his face. I'm not sure that Thanos is even capable of something like fear anymore.
Well,
certainly not of something like death.
I'm sorry. Yeah, my knowledge is limited, but isn't he in love with death?
Yes.
Okay.
Death has been his...
So wouldn't he welcome death
the
then?
Object of his... That's kind of what I'm thinking here. Of course, his relationship with death has become somewhat more complicated over the last couple of years.
Okay.
So that's another thing. We're also... the solicit you read, Brian, mentions that Thanos is reconnecting with his family, and we do see one of Thanos' many children.
I was going to say, I know he's got a lot of kids. I know just from reading a couple of his books.
Yep, one of the Thanosi, whose name is Thane.
Oh, that's right, because, oh my God, he was in... Oh, I'm going to have to Google this. He was in one of the Avengers series, something with the Inhumans, I think.
Well, that was Infinity, wasn't it?
Probably was.
Was he in Infinity?
I would be willing to bet he was.
You see, now I'm just terrible with my remembering.
I kind of think that's where we learned that exactly how many descendants Thanos has. But yeah, Thane is this Sinestro-looking guy on that page there. And the lady with him. You see, this is another reason where...
Yeah, Infinity, okay.
Another reason why this was not a more solid buy for me. I winced after, Lemire not only kills off what I thought was one of the best things about Hickman's Infinity, he also brings in what I think was hands down the worst thing about Jason Aaron's Thanos Origin miniseries from a few years ago.
Oh, that's right, because we did that also as an off-the-rack,
We did do that, yes, the first issue. And this mysterious woman showed up in the first issue of that miniseries, too.
Oh, that's right. Remembering things.
It's all coming back to you.
It's all coming back to me now. Now it's already gone again, but anyway.
Okay. Well, I said at the time that I hoped
it wasn't,
like heck that it wasn't death.
Death, right.
Because the implication then would be that Thanos' obsession with death was encouraged by death herself. The way Starlin had always played it in the past was that death was this distant, unobtainable object. The object of Thanos' unrequited love, always distant and never wanting anything to do with Thanos. Like, she always spurned his many romantic overtures, or even to the extent of exterminating half the Marvel Universe to please her. Death still wanted none of Thanos' affection. And now Jason Aaron comes along and tells us, oh, guess what? Death led him on. Like, she appeared to him as in this alluring humanoid female form as a child. And And now this is apparently the version of death that Jason Aaron showed us in that miniseries. I'm still holding out hope that after all this time, that this version of death turns out to be not the actual Marvel Universe personification of death, but some other cosmic manipulator, and maybe even Loki, who's impersonating death to string Thanos along and set him on his cataclysmic life path, and is now attempting to do the same thing to his son Thane. Because I do not want to believe that this is the actual Marvel Universe death. Death is many things, but death is not a slut. Nor is she a cocktail.
And that is the quote for the episode.
I was going to say that'll be a headline and go, oh my God.
Yep, that's going on tomorrow.
Nor is she, what did you just say? Nor is she
a cocktail.
Oh, that's what I thought you said.
Death is not that either. So I am not pleased to see this lady, quote-unquote, death, playing up to Thane now. And apparently attempting to play son against father, because they are on the moon of Titan, which is where Thanos was born, and apparently they're the ones. Thane and his lady here are the ones who have gotten Star Fox and the Champion and whoever else together to try and kill Thanos, even though this Death Lady knows, as apparently nobody else does know, that Thanos is dying already. So, a couple of interesting things set up here. One or two questionable moves on the writer's part, but I'm more than willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. I have already bought the next 2 issues of this series. I don't think in the long run I will regret it. This is a semi-promising start to one of my favorite Marvel Universe characters. I don't think there's a way I wasn't going to read it, even though, as I said, Thanos is tricky to get right. So, I think almost anybody writing this character except Starlin would create reservations in my mind. So, I'm not speaking against Lemire and Deodato and the job they've done here necessarily. Just, I must, of necessity, have a couple of nitpicks, and I've laid them out already. And one last thought as far as the art goes. Apparently, reading the text piece at the back, the editor, Jordan White, reveals that the character design that's been laid on the title character, Thanos here, is actually borrowed from a recent video game. Contest of Champions, it was called.
Oh, okay.
So, make of that what you will.
All right.
Yeah, I don't really care for the way his armor is depicted here, but it could be worse. I like it better than I do the way he appeared in Guardians of the Galaxy, the movie, for example.
Okay.
So, yeah, this is a buy, but not without some reservations for me.
Well, an easy buy, as you said.
An uneasy buy,
Okay.
yes.
All right, Murr, before we begin, I have a continuity question for you, because this has slipped my mind. When did Thanos destroy Titan?
Destroy?
The city and because Thane's dwelling in the ruins of it.
Yeah, and he destroyed Titan a long time ago, but they rebuilt. I mean, that was one of the first things he did when he came of age. But yeah, I really don't know when he most recently laid waste to Titan. I seem to recall reading a little sequence with him very recently in which he murders his father Mentor.
That was in, I believe it's in issue 2.
Oh, all right. That's
that's pretty recent.
Okay, then I guess I looked through that more recently than I looked through this, and somehow convinced myself that that scene happened before what was going on in issue 1.
Okay, that's all right. I was just curious. I'm sure some of the forums can help us out with that. I thoroughly enjoyed this. One caveat, because I really appreciate Murd's points here, and I think it speaks to what a tremendous character Thanos is, and a brilliant job Jim Starlin has done in conceiving the character and following through on his vision. When you have a character this strong, which one creator has put as sort of a singular imprint on, it's a real challenge to all the creators then try to utilize that character in the future, and some have done a very poor job over the years. This one I think is going to be one of the stronger efforts. What I loved right off the bat, Murd, again, you beat me to the punch, and I congratulate you, sir. What a thrill to see third-person captions. I can't remember the last time I've read a recent comic where you had third-person captions. And again, in the hands of a skillful writer, I think they do not detract, but they add to the enjoyment of a comic book reading experience. Wonderful to see them here. The double-page title, Thanos Returns, had, I think, the appropriate cinematic epic quality that is associated with the character, and of course is all the more fitting considering the role he's no doubt going to play in future films in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Let's not kid ourselves. It's one of the reasons why I'm sure they've showcased him in his own book
to be sure.
At this point. But that's fine if we get a good story, and I enjoyed this thoroughly. I loved seeing Thanos come into one of these sectors of his galaxy-spanning empire and just casually and quickly disposing of any and all resistance posed to him. And I thought it was – I mean, Murd, I hear you on Glaive. I thought he was an interesting character. He was part of the whole Black Order sect, right? All the minions of Thanos, his lieutenants, so to speak.
Okay.
But I thought it was appropriate that Thanos disposed of him very easily and very quickly because he is Thanos. And none of his minions should have any chance really at trying to take him down. I did enjoy the scene where Thanos says, if you weren't such a whiny beggar, I would have given you probably mercy. But because you begged, you have two choices. You can either kill yourself or I'll do with far greater pain. And I thought that was on-spot Thanos, basically, that scene. I thought it was one of the best scenes in the whole book.
I do not
In
disagree.
terms of capture the essence of the character. Deodato's art is breathtaking. The scene where after Thanos, oversees Glaive killing himself, he just kind of sits majestically and menacingly on his throne. I thought visually captured the character and his just diabolical, majestic presence so well. One of my favorite parts of this book, though, was the scenes between Star Fox and the so-called champion of the galaxy. You gotta love when you see your first image of Star Fox is him just getting down to an orgy with various female species from various alien races. And I really enjoy his interplay. I'm not familiar with the character. Is it Trico? Trico?
Trico Slatterus, yeah. Champion of the universe, one of the elders of the universe.
Okay, so you're more familiar with him, I assume, then.
At one time, he had one of the Infinity Gems. He had the Power Gem.
Oh! Was he part of the Infinity Watch?
No, this is before that. He's the guy that Thanos had to extract the... Thanos had to steal the Power Gem from him. That's part of the Thanos quest story.
And is Trico one of the members of Titan?
No, he's the only surviving member of whatever alien race he came from, like all the other elders are.
So I enjoyed their interplay, the tension. I agree. I like the concept of sort of this, dirty dozen type group coming together now to try to, pull off the impossible and actually assassinate Thanos. And it's good to see Star Fox. I haven't seen him in my own reading in a while, and I always enjoy his character. And I really enjoy the interplay between him and Trico. Kind of calls him out on the facade he puts up, and it kind of Star Fox's BS. And I like the tension between them. That could lead to some interesting narrative moments. As far as the character, the female entity, whatever she is, Murd, I did enjoy the Aaron miniseries. Again, I'm a huge Aaron fan, but I agree with you. I hope this is not death, because it's been established throughout the years. The whole purpose of Thanos' being, his obsession, is the pursuit of death. And if we find out that death kind of manipulated this from the beginning, why would death take the time to even do that, number one, unless you wanted this being to just, kill that many more beings. But I just find it more interesting that Thanos himself is trying to attain the unattainable. But we'll see. Jeff Lemire is a great writer, so I'm just really going to reserve judgment on that and see where he goes with this. The notion of Thanos dying, and again, the seeming anxiety he has over this, and again, of course, they pick this up. I haven't read issue 3 yet, which has come out. I have read issue 2. We'll see where they go with that. I agree with you, Murray. This needs to be handled very delicately in terms of how they address this character and his relationship with the entity and the concept of death, and where they go with the notion of, quote, Thanos dying. But I see a lot of promise here. I love that the art was breathtaking and again captured the just sort of the cosmic majesty of this character and the sort of the tableau he's operating in. We'll see. The battle with Glaive, when Glaive brings his axe down on Thanos' gauntlet, and the clang and the sparks flying. I thought the imagery in this was fantastic. It captured just the sheer power of Thanos as this demigod. So, a good buy for me. I really enjoyed it, and I did enjoy issue 2. I'm not going to spoil that too much for people, and I'll probably read issue 3 tonight, actually. So, if you're a Thanos fan, definitely worth checking out. And again, because of the role he's clearly going to play in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, even people who are not familiar with Thanos, definitely read the Starlin stuff first, I think, before you read this. We did a whole spotlight on a lot of the cosmic stuff from the Bronze Age that Thanos played a key role in. And definitely read the Infinity Gauntlet, too, I would say, before you check this out. But there's a great trade, Thanos versus the Avengers, which captures a lot of the early Bronze Age stuff Thanos is involved in, also the Death of Captain Marvel trades, a lot of the key Thanos stuff in there, and of course the Warlock trade that Murd has. You get those 3 trades, you're going to get the bulk of the key Thanos appearances from the 70s, and then read the Infinity Gauntlet. I think that's a pretty good primer. What do you think, Murd?
Oh, yeah. That's between the Warlock trade you just mentioned and the Infinity Gauntlet is like the next time Thanos does anything really significant. So,
all right, Motor Girl.
All right, so up next, yes, Motor Girl #1 from Abstract Studios with story and art by Terry Moore with the cover color by Steve Hamaker. It says, first issue. When Samantha's junkyard is visited by a UFO looking for spare parts, she is only too happy to oblige. But when word gets out she's a reliable source, Sam's booming alien business catches the attention of an Area 51 investigator determined to shut her down. Don't miss the premiere issue of Terry Moore's fantastic new series. This, for me, is bye, dear sweet God, it's a bye. Wake the kids, phone the neighbors, get your clergyman involved. This is a bye. Buy it. Give it to just buy this damn thing. This is fantastic.
Okay, don't bother the pastor on my account. Just a single buy will suffice.
Oh, my God.
Was there ever any question that a Terry Moore book would be anything but a buy? And to quote the dear departed Jamie D, buy!
Yes.
So,
oh, my gosh. The solicit, the hell with that. I would have bought it. He could have just written or drawn anything. I would have probably just gotten it. But what a great story this has. You're thrown into this junkyard with Samantha and her gorilla friend Mike. And then you find out that Mike's probably a figment of her imagination. You find out how what she's gone through with, solitary confinement and her family. She gets visited by the cutest aliens ever. Oh my God, they were adorable. His art is, I've gone on and on about it. It's just beyond reproach. We've talked about it before. He's a great cartoonist, great illustrator. This book looks good. This book reads well. And I'm so sorry it took so long to get. He was planning on doing this book after Strangers in Paradise, but then Echo came along. Then Richard Rising came along, so we finally get Motor Girl now. It's only going to be, I believe, 6 issues. But this is just... And did I mention that it smells good, too, the comic? I don't know about you guys who copied it. It just smells good. Oh, my God. From the mind of Terry Moore, this is amazing. And when I've seen him at shows and, inquired about his artwork, like when he had the SIP Kids that came out not too long ago, I found out that they keep all the artwork for all the #1 issues they do. So I can't get any artwork from this issue, but I would love to get some pages from this. I don't get any Terry Moore page, but this is a great story. I already just read issue #2. It's just as good. Terry Moore can do no wrong. I buy this book. It's just out of this world.
Pun.
Murd, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, first of all, congrats to you, Brian, for catching something that I completely failed to pick up on, namely the possibility that the talking gorilla might not be real.
What?
Yeah, it's looking at this. There's no page numbers here, but the page when Libby, the landlady, and Samantha are talking to each other, suddenly the armchair that Mike had been sitting in is vacant. I did not pick up on that at all the first time I read
that
through.
Was my first, holy cow, this is going in a different direction than I thought it was going to go.
I think I just wanted to believe in the gorilla.
Who doesn't want to believe in a gorilla? Come on, gorillas sell comics. If we learn nothing else from Julie Schwartz, the Silver Age, gorillas sell comics.
One of my favorite things about this issue is the fact that there is, in fact, a talking gorilla with aviator goggles and a braided goatee, just standing around having conversations with Sam, and we're just thrown into it. There's no explanation given, at least not verbally. But now you've just provided me with a bit of subtext that I missed. The very subtle absence of the gorilla in the armchair does really seem to suggest that Sam is just suffering from a touch of PTSD and is hallucinating. But yes, well, yeah, I love the world that we've been thrown into here as much as you do. I was in love with the character of Samantha from the first conversation she and Mike the gorilla have, where she starts complaining about two topics of great interest to me, two pet peeves of mine: idiots who play with their phones instead of concentrating on driving, and self-driven cars. Now, one might argue that one of those two things would solve the problem of the other, but I would argue that you're just trading one set of problems and dangers for the other, so... Good on Samantha for complaining about both of them. I am right there with you, sister. So I was, I was on board from that first discussion, and Mike, meanwhile, is standing there fantasizing about grilling fish on a beach with Scarlett Johansson. Good on you, Mike. Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Jamie, Chris, because he would have adored this comic.
Oh, my God.
It's Terry Moore, and there's a gorilla in it. Who cares if it's an imaginary gorilla? It's a gorilla. Mm-hmm. And then, then by the end of the story, and Terry Moore continues to prove himself a master of the medium in just the way he knows exactly when to allow his art to just go full cartoon and let the characters get these big, silly, comedic take expressions on their faces and just turn into Charles M. Schultz characters for a minute.
Yeah, the look on that alien's face when he looks up and sees Samantha, oh, that's just...
A couple of pages earlier when that the Samantha's in her bedroom and that loud Boorg sound effect... Real. The second act, when these funny little aliens who look like they just they're like supporting characters from a daily newspaper strip. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we can tell that this is going to be well, with the exception of SIP Kids, the lightest thing that Terry Moore has done for some time, and I think that's a good thing.
Although there is the possibility of some heaviness coming in here.
Well, yeah, this is Terry Moore. Like I said, there's always a possibility. He knows exactly when to shift tones.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And he does so deftly, and it always works. That scene with Libby where she presents Sam with the serious decision of whether or not to sell the junkyard, and Sam realizes this is what she's thought she's wanted all this time, but she's got all this baggage that Libby mentioned. She was in the armed services for 3 tours of duty. She was a POW and held in solitary for nearly a year. So she's dealing with some stuff, and Mike, as you noticed and I didn't, Brian, might be a symptom of all that. I want him to be real. I said that already. He might just be a gorilla who not only talks but has the power to become invisible selectively. If aliens can be in this, an invisible gorilla is certainly not beyond the realm of possibility, though it doesn't seem all that likely at this point, I must admit. Sam's emotional issues and her possible trauma, her possible psychological problems, there's plenty of potential for things to get heavy, as you say. But for the time being, this first issue keeps it fairly light. It introduces the mystery of Mr. Walden, the man who's trying to buy this seemingly worthless piece of land out in the desert covered with automotive junk. And then these aliens happen by, and Sam is able to help them out, unless they're not real either. I guess that's also a possibility, I suppose.
Sure.
But according to that solicitation that you read, it's a possibility that this junkyard is suddenly going to become a hub for wayward aliens, ETs, who need help with their vehicles, who need to stop by and buy spare parts. So which is a great premise in and of itself, even without throwing in the possibly imaginary gorilla and all the other interesting little things and flourishes that Moore threw into this first issue. So, yeah, this was a winsome first issue. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I'm maybe not quite as over the moon about it as you guys are. I might not continue with it going.
Oh, out with you! I cast you out.
Throw something at me, sure. Why don't you?
No, I can't do it. That's a pen. It might hurt.
Turn the sign on the door around. Maybe that'll warn me away.
Yeah.
Yes, I enjoyed this quite a bit. It's not something at this point I feel like I'm going to need to read month to month, but it's good work, and so I give it a buy.
All right. Now, I'm really going to echo a lot of the sentiments you gentlemen already expressed, but Panther, to go back to one comment you made, I think is right on the money. What I like so much about this story is that with Terry Moore, because he's a living master of this medium, when you're reading one of his books, it's not just going to be one thing. And what I mean by that is it's not just going to be funny. It's just going to be cute. He always plants seeds where this story can go in a lot of different directions. And some of those directions could be very dark, could be disturbing. They could be topical comments on issues going on in society. But you know, whatever way, whichever path he takes, it's also going to be a lot of humor, a lot of charming scenes, and again, I have to. I don't think there's any better illustrator in comics. The way he captures facial expressions, the details and background scenes. Again, any listener has not tried a Terry Moore production, Strangers in Paradise, Echo, the horrifying, and I mean that in the best possible way, Rachel Rising, Motor Girl. You owe it to yourself. If you're a fan of this medium, just of the medium of producing a comic book, this is pretty much as good as it gets today. And I don't mean that as a disparaging to other creators, just that this is a modern master working at the top of his form. And what I loved about this story, I did realize almost immediately the gorilla was not real. Now, you guys made a good point. There's aliens in here. Maybe the gorilla will somehow become an actual physical manifestation. But I think as it stands now, this is clearly a figment of her imagination, which, based on what I love the character Libby, the way she's drawn is perfect. The owner of the scrapyard, a manifestation of the sort of the survival skills she used when she was. I'm assuming she was in the Middle East. She was in the military for 3 tours of duty. She was captured, and she probably relied on this aspect of her own persona to survive. That no doubt terrible ordeal. So PTSD and the struggles with that might be an issue in this story going forward. We'll see. But what's so brilliant about Moore's work is that just in a few strokes of his pencil and of the dialogue and the plot, you know this character. Like you already have a strong sense of who she is, where she's been, what she's dealing with, and where she might be headed. That is so hard to do this skillfully. In a brand new book, he's not like he's picking up characters that have already have a long continuity, like a Thanos, for example. This is right from the mind of Terry Moore. And Pants, to echo your other comment, I remember going to a Pittsburgh Comic-Con years ago, and he was giving a talk, and he talked about, my next project is something called Motor Girl. Mm-hmm. And that was years back.
Oh, yeah.
And then, we Echo came out, and I thought, I wonder if he's ever going to come back to this concept. And lo and behold, he has, and that's, reassuring and very reaffirming about just what a tremendous creator this man is, and how clearly no idea is fully jettisoned here. The aliens were great. I thought it was like watching kind of a Looney Tunes cartoon, like Marvin the Martian or something like that. Because he's a great cartoonist. Yep. He just captures that feel in the way he renders characters. And I'm very excited to see where this is going to go because, again, like you guys said, this has very much a lighthearted feel to it. Beneath the surface, there's clearly issues she's dealing with, and also who is this mysterious
Mr. Walden,
sort of financial master of the universe who plans and wants to buy the land. We see a rocket ship in his lair that he's gazing at as he's speaking on the phone to Libby. Are his intentions nefarious? Are they beneficial? We don't know. We have to find out. Is there more to the junkyard that meets the eye? Again, all these questions I'm posing is just an example of why this is such a great first issue. It leaves you fully engaged and wanting to find out what's going to go on in this new world Terry Moore is creating for us. And I'm on board all the way to the end because every world is created. It's great comics, ladies and gentlemen. Motor Girl #1, strongest possible buy.
Absolutely. All right. Well, let's go on next, if we could, to Avengers number 1.1. And Chris will let you lead the charges. But let me read the solicit first. I actually have this pulled up here. Like I said, number 1.1, written by Mark Waid, with art by Barry Kitson.
Oh.
The old order changeth more than you ever suspected. For the first time ever, we'll learn what really happened all those years ago when the founding Avengers turned their membership over to a set of new recruits. The recently thawed Captain America is joined by 3 reformed supervillains, Hawkeye, Quicksilver, and the Scarlet Witch. And a new group of Earth's mightiest heroes takes shape in a story that has direct ramifications for the Avengers of today.
Well, I mentioned this briefly on the air a couple times because it's a mini-series. It'll be finishing up soon. 2 things right at the bat. First of all,
your rating, sir?
Oh, my apologies. Terrible.
Terrible.
Oh, strongest possible buy.
Yes, I give it a buy as well. And actually, I picked it up on your recommendation, by the way.
Yep, it's a buy from me too.
Oh, you've read it as well.
I don't have it with me, but yes, I read
Okay,
it.
excellent.
Oh, terrific. I just got a chill. Fantastic.
Well, Chris, the floor is yours. Well,
And Pats,
warm
but again,
yourself up.
my heart is going pitter, pitter, pat because I gave you a recommendation. You enjoyed it, sir. I'm moved beyond words.
Oh, stop it.
Never. Now, two things off the bat. First of all, I am a sucker for stories that flash back to eras of comic history I love, like the Marvel Silver Age, and then mine in between the panels, so to speak, of those stories, and, bring new gold to the surface, so to speak. And two, it's Wade and Kitson.
Mm-hmm.
JLA Year One, anybody? For example, come on. I knew right away when I saw the concept and the creative team, I knew this was going to be great, and I was not disappointed because Mark Waid is one of the great writer-historians of the medium we all love. So I knew that he would, cross every T and dot every I when it came to this story. And just going through it, first of all, Pants, how beautiful is the art?
Yeah. Barry Kitson art,
God.
inked by Mark Farmer.
Mark Farmer, yep.
Oh, man.
So, just like he did with JLA Year One, Kitson really captures the feel of these characters from the 1960s, their uniforms, the way they carried themselves. But again, it's being written in the 21st century, so it's not defying or renouncing the time period it's coming from, but the dialogue, the attitudes. Let's just say it's supplementing what you knew from the 1960s. It's not diluting the feel of that time period. In fact, I think it captures it expertly. But this is very accessible to a modern audience. Let's put it that way. First of all, again, the art is – I'd kill for one of these pages, Pants.
Yeah.
I can only imagine what they're going to go for. But
Yeah.
He captures the costumes of the time period of these characters. It's so good to see Hawkeye in his original costume. Maybe I'm in the minority. I can't stand his current costume. I'm not a fan of it at all.
Yeah, the purple
I
sunglasses.
just don't think it captures
Yeah.
– what's that, Mert?
The purple sunglasses, doesn't work for me either.
I just don't think it captures the charm or the panache or the history of the character. I think it's dull as hell. I loved seeing the new the old costume again. What I enjoyed the most, though, about this story and is just how expertly Wade captures the dynamic between these characters in terms of their personalities. I mean, right off the bat, you have the tension between Hawkeye and Cap. So perfectly captured when they go out to the news conference and they're trying to put up, the good PR face to the reporters, but they're whispering back and forth each other. Hawkeye calls him Methuselah under his breath. Hawkeye's already making a play behind the scenes to try to wrest leadership of the Avengers from Cap. The scene where he wants to leave, and then Cap already has Hawkeye's vanity figured out. He says, "You have a butler," and says, "Oh, you know what? Lobster tonight. I'm going to stay." So the humor is there, the interplay between the two, the tension with Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. They've just left. Again, Wade knows the history to the T. They've just left Magneto's Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. They're trying to redeem themselves in the eyes of the public and in their own minds, but they're already feeling, is this the right where we should be? They're antagonized by some provocative questions of one of the reporters at the opening press conference. You get to see the Frightful Four when Medusa was a member, and they're already capturing her. Sort of her ambiguous feelings about being part of that group. These are masterful creators at the top of their form. This is a love letter to that period. The letters page in the back is a hoot.
Yes, it is.
Because they have the Mighty Marvel checklist from the time when this book would have come out. Because again, this the premiere of Cap's Cookie Quartet. It's in between those issues.
Yeah, I think
so that was fun
Avengers
to see that.
16, I think you said it was.
Yep, the old order changes.
Yep. Avengers 15. Yep.
Or 16.
16.
I'm sorry. Correct. Yes. Thank you, sir. And I've read the subsequent issues. They're just as good as this. If you're not going to buy the issues, definitely buy the trade when Marvel issues it. If you're a fan of Marvel history, of the Silver Age, of the Avengers, don't think. Just get this in whatever form you prefer. You will not be disappointed. I'm so happy that Marvel gave Wade and Kitson the room to do what they do best. Right here, ladies and gentlemen, this is Marvel Comics at the top of their form.
Yeah. And like I said, I did get this on your recommendation, Chris. I actually have the issue number 2.1 as well. The numbering throws me a little off with the putting them in my database, but that's a minor annoyance. But yeah, I mean, just Wade Kitson, year one, Mark Farmer Inc. The story, the art, the characters, it's just good stuff. And I like you, I love just digging back into established events and sort of like a behind-the-scenes kind of look that makes sense. Now, I didn't know until I read the solicit that this is going to affect or have ramifications on the Avengers of today. I don't know how that's going to work in there. I'm curious to see how that follows through. But yeah, just so much fun.
Well, the current story is Kang and time travel related. So.
Oh, okay. I did not know that. So that
Kang War 5, I think it's called. So it's got Kang and Immortus and like the Scarlet Centurion and all those guys.
Excellent. But yeah, just seeing Cap just like, who are you people? And joking about wanting to crawl back into the iceberg again.
Yep, that was a great line.
Oh, it's just fun comics. Made me smile. There's a little bit of modern sensibility to the story. I mean, I can go on and on about the art for goodness sake, like you said, but. Yeah, just a damn fine comic, and like I said,
you're handing me your own comic, Brian.
Well, yeah, but you want to look at it for your.
Well, it's okay, sure, I'll look at it. I read it this morning.
But visual aids and all that stuff. Anyway, yeah, buy just wonderful stuff.
In fact, Pants, I ordered for myself the poster of the first cover.
Oh,
so I'm going to frame that and put that up because I love this artwork.
Yeah. Adam, you have anything to add?
Okay, well, I'll begin by bestowing a bit of additional praise. We've spoken at length about Kitson and Farmer, and Farmer is one of the best inkers around. His inks over Alan Davis's pencils. That's
sublime.
Some of my favorite art in all of comics history. But to the letterer, Ferran Delgado, I'd like to bestow a bit of praise because he letters this in kind of a heavier strokes than are common in comics these days, which again adds to the period feel. In addition to being a little easier to read for the nearsighted among us. Yes, this was an excellent little trip back in time, as only Wade and Kitson can do it. Chris has mentioned they did the same thing with the JLA back in the late 90s, with the JLA Year 1 maxi series, which was excellent, and this is just more of the same, but in the Marvel Universe. With the opening sequence, we get to see an early lineup of the Masters of Evil, including the Melter. And how often do you get to see him in comics?
Yes.
Ever. So we get to see the classic Avengers in action against them for a bit, and then they all kind of traipse off into the sunset and leave. Now, I have a copy of Avengers number 16 in the to-be-read pile, Chris. But tell me, does it really happen the way it goes down here? The old Avengers just kind of walk away and say, oh, by the way, Cap, we arranged for you to lead this team of reformed criminals and reprobates.
Yes.
So he doesn't even handpick them. They're dumped in his lap like this. That's the way it goes down.
I haven't read that a long time. They definitely just leave. I don't remember if he handpicked them or not. That I'd have to read it again. But they just Baron Zemo dies in 15, and Baron Zemo Sr., and then in 16 they leave. So. I want to say, again, I'd have to go back into my history notes. I think they did that because Stan Lee was having too much trouble keeping their continuity straight in their own titles and then also in the Avengers. So
okay,
I think that's why the reason for it.
Makes perfect extra-textual sense.
And speaking of continuity, they referenced in here in the press conference talking about Hawkeye attacking Stark Industries, which was, I believe, his first appearance in Tales of Suspense 57, so they referenced that. So cool little tidbits, Easter eggs, if you will.
Yes, the continuity is in there. As Chris says, Wade does that better than almost anybody. He knows what he is doing. But yeah, so it is interesting to see, this sort of contemporary, somewhat more realistic slant on this bizarre situation that was thrown into this comic for reasons, as you just said, Chris, that had nothing to do with the Marvel Universe itself and everything to do with Stan Lee's having difficulty balancing the continuity of the time. So Mark Weed and Barry Kitson now step in to try and make a little more human sense of what has happened and how these characters react to this situation in which they all find themselves. So we have a Captain America, one of the greatest and most inspirational leaders in the Marvel Universe, finding himself having to lead an impossible bunch of raw recruits. Just incompatible personalities. He's having a challenge to his leadership and sort of a power play from Hawkeye. And I was interested in the interaction between Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, since Quicksilver has traditionally been presented as the arrogant hothead, and Scarlet Witch is a more neutral personality. But the way Wade is writing it here, their roles seem to have been reversed a little bit. So that's an interesting direction. And, of course, the Frightful Four. I always gravitate towards the period villains. And the Frightful Four showing up just sort of high on their recent victory against the Fantastic Four that apparently nobody but the FF and the Frightful Four know about. And they very publicly hand the all new, all different Avengers their first defeat, and it is beyond definitive. They just knock them all down in a matter of seconds. The Wizard says, "We're finished here," and away they fly. And the end panel of the Wasp, seeing all this on television and thinking to herself, "Oh dear God, what have we done?" That too. I mean, this is again Mark Waid giving us a plausible slant on implausible events of the Silver Age of comics, of the Wasp realizing that maybe the Avengers walking away and leaving Cap saddled with these 4 ex-cons was not the wisest thing they could possibly have done. As indeed they probably, if they were in control of their own wills instead of Stan Lee manipulating things for his own convenience, they probably would not have done that. So I'm absolutely. We know now that this is only going to be a 6-issue thing. They're only going as far as 6.1, I believe.
I thought it was even 5, but I'll take your word for it, sir.
Oh, okay. Well, I could be wrong about that too. I just know that it's finite.
Yes, exactly.
It is. We will come to the end in the next couple of months, and it'll just be, integer numbering from then on for this volume, presumably. But yes, so as long as this continues, I will be buying and reading it and enjoying it. Because it's, like Chris, I'm a sucker for slipped in between the issues, untold tales of comics eras past, and Wade and Kitson are a team supreme. Only Kurt Busiek can rival them as far as...
Indeed.
And one of your favorite artists, Pat Olive, of course, yes. The Untold Tales of Spider-Man in the 90s. Only they compare to Wade and Kitson in this regard. Yes. So yes, definite buy.
Now, Chris, the alliterative description, Cap's Kooky Quartet, is that yours, or did you get that from somewhere else?
Oh no, that's from the history.
Okay,
I can't take credit for that one.
Okay.
Yep, Jamie.
That's a long-standing. I'm sorry, Mark. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Chris.
That's a long. I don't know who came up with that. Honestly, that's a long-standing designation for that period in Avengers history. Maybe it was Stan Lee. I'm not sure. Some of the forums could probably help us out with that. But
all right. On next to Batman Annual Number 1, Adam, written by Tom King, Scott Snyder, Paul Dini, Steve Orlando, and Scott Wilson, with art by David Finch, Riley Rossmo, Neil Adams, and others. Silent Night. A hush of winter snowfall has fallen over Gotham City, but a quiet night in this place is never truly quiet. Batman and his allies, and his many foes, stalk the streets in this icy showcase of top talent.
Well, that does sum it up. I would call this a showcase, actually. What we got here in this annual is actually 5 different Batman stories.
Okay.
So it's that the solicit doesn't precisely break it down that way, but that right. is what we have here. It's not all one big story called Silent Night. It's 5 different ones, all of them, to one extent or another, Christmas-related.
Okay.
And I'd give the issue on the whole a biro as a rating.
Okay.
Because 3 of the stories are buys, I would say. They're pretty good to very good, and the last 2 stories, the 4th and 5th in the issue, are only kind of mediocre. Mm-hmm. So it balances out in my mind to a biro.
Okay.
5 stories. The first one, written by Tom King, pencils and inks by David Finch. It's entitled Good Boy, and it's the New 52 origin of Ace the Bat Hound.
Oh!
Enough said.
Oh!
Yeah, I don't even want to go into too much detail. I don't want to deny people the pleasure of reading Tom's work here, but it's told somewhat choppily. It's just like little snatches in the scenelets taking place between September and Christmas morning, and it tells the story of this dog, Ace, who He was apparently a part of one of the Joker's criminal schemes, and it's a story of how Alfred finds and rescues this dog and presents him to Master Bruce on Christmas morning as a pet. So yes, it is a Christmas tale, and it's also the introduction of Ace, and it's also a story about the relationship between Alfred and Bruce. And I'm pleased with the way Tom chose to portray Bruce, as it harkens back to earlier, simpler times when Bruce was able to be shown to be capable of having a little bit of fun, when he wasn't so just just jaw-clenchingly serious and intense all the time. Here's a hint. Ace wears a mask in a couple of different scenes in this story. The second story is written by Scott Snyder, who was like the Batman Golden Boy at DC over the past couple of years. It was co-written by him and Ray Fawkes, and the art is by Declan Shalvey. And it's one Christmas Eve in Gotham as Batman enjoys a fleeting moment of peace and tranquility as he just kind of stops in the middle of his patrol and watches some Chinese acrobats perform in Champion Square in the middle of Gotham. As just for a second there, police bulletins stop roaring through his cowl headset, and he can just sit and enjoy himself. So that was a nice little story by a big-time Batman creator. Then we've got, you might appreciate this, Brian. The third story is a tribute to a classic Batman holiday story, originally seen in Batman number 216, The Silent Night of the Batman.
Wow, okay, that's going back, yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's by Mike Friedrich and Neil Adams. And that same Neil Adams draws this story.
Oh, nice.
Partnered with the script by Paul Dini. Oh. It's entitled The Not-So-Silent Night of the Harley Quinn. And so, Adams does pencils, inks, and colors. Oh. So he's the artist of all trades here. And it's a story of Batman nabs Harley Quinn as she's trying to break into police headquarters to distribute cookies. And the two of them go on kind of a forced ride together. Batman is determined to dump her off either at Arkham or at the Gotham city limits, her choice. And she decides to behave just enough to get herself out of Gotham and not get committed. And as they go, there are a lot of callbacks to that original story, The Silent Night of the Batman, in here. In that story, Batman spends all Christmas Eve at Gotham Central Precinct with Commissioner Gordon and some Gotham cops just heartily singing Christmas carols. And here, instead, we get Harley heartily singing Christmas carols in Batman's ear as they drive along. And as they go, there are scenes. Again, this is quoting visually from that original story. In that story, crimes were thwarted by visions, possibly in the criminal's head, of Batman or people in Batman costumes, as if some force were generating these extra Batmans or the illusions of them to quell crime in Gotham City and give Batman that one night of comfort and joy, of peace and goodwill towards his fellow law officers. And so as Batman and Harley are driving along in this story, they see different scenes of crimes being thwarted by actual people who are wearing Harley Quinn cap and bell costumes. And then Batman finally drops her off, and as a little Christmas surprise, he's actually gone that extra mile and not just dumped her off outside the Gotham City limits. He takes her all the way home to her hideout on Coney Island. And all of her supporting cast, Poison Ivy and a bunch of other characters I don't recognize, are waiting there for her. Neil Adams' art... I don't think I would have recognized it as his, actually. It actually, maybe he's trying to draw a little more like Amanda Connor, just as a tip of the cap and bells to the lady who's most artistically associated with Harley these days. Or maybe it's just that he's going a little too heavy on the inks and colors over his own pencils. But it looks good. It just doesn't look very much like what I understand as Adams' style. I'll hand this over to you in a minute so you can be the judge yourself. The fourth story in the issue is probably the weakest. It's written by Steve Orlando. Art by Riley Rossmo of Cowboy Ninja Viking. It opens with an extended scene of Batman rescuing a little kids' playland kind of. Somebody built up a little ice garden for kids to play in the middle of town, and the Golden Age Wonder Woman villain Minister Blizzard shows up. and
Okay.
takes exception to this little ice world as an insult to the legendary iceberg land that he calls home. He claims to be the prime minister of this country, and that was his actual origin in the Golden Age.
Okay.
He's portrayed as a potential nut job who hallucinated the whole thing. But he does have ice powers. He
Okay.
rides in on the back of this big blue ice ox. But Batman defeats him easily and rescues a public benefactor who is like a personal hero of Bruce's in the process. And by the end of the story, we have this other mysterious villain called the Stag show up and murder somebody randomly. It's pretty obviously just like a teaser or a lead-in to some Batman story coming up in 2017, probably also written by Steve Orlando, featuring this Stag character. So it felt, again, kind of like a backdoor pilot, or like we're paying for preview pages.
Okay.
It is, so the link to Christmas is a little bit tenuous here. But Batman versus Minister Blizzard was legitimately pretty cool. No pun intended.
Oh.
And then the final story, The Insecurity Diversion is its title. And on Christmas Eve, this is a story that probably could have happened just about any other night of the year. So again, the Christmas Eve link is a little tenuous. We're introduced to a new female Arkham inmate, a lady named Delia Flaum, alias Haunter, who has been in Arkham for the last 20 years. Batman put her there. Oh, yeah, the script is by Scott Bryan Williams for this story. And the art, Bilkis Evely.
Oh, yes.
So you'll want to see that, too.
Yes, I will.
Yep, colors by Matt Lopez. On Christmas Eve, this Haunter lady breaks out. Apparently she's had associations with both Poison Ivy and the Scarecrow. It is, in fact, the Scarecrow she's working with to get out of Arkham on Christmas Eve. Scarecrow has dosed all of Gotham City with a watered-down version of his fear toxin, just enough to make everyone prone to anxiety and insecurity, which people are more susceptible to at Christmas time naturally anyway. The suicide rates naturally increase around Christmas time. People are emotionally vulnerable. So the fear toxin does its work. Batman, however, sees through the deception almost immediately and is able to head Scarecrow and Haunter off at the pass. Haunter apparently has the superhuman ability to kill anyone she wants, anywhere in the world, just by coming into contact with a sample of their DNA. Just like a hair clipping or a fingernail, just a single molecule of skin is enough for her to be able to kill somebody long distance.
Oh.
So she's potentially a very dangerous bad guy. But on Christmas Eve, she succeeds in killing nobody. Batman tracks her and the Scarecrow down and stops them in their tracks. And the artwork is every bit as good as what we saw in those Sugar and Spike stories in the Legends of Tomorrow anthology. Cool. So, yes, the art is great. The story a little bit weaker, but not as weak as the thing that Steve Orlando wrote with the Stag showing up at the end.
Okay.
So, there you go. 5 more or less holiday tales. Some of them very good, some of them just kind of so-so. But all together, it's a comic I would say is worth reading. Again, I give it a buy row. It's even better if you don't have to pay the $4.99 to read it.
Excellent.
It's a 48-page
I will check that out momentarily. How you doing on time there, Chris?
I do have to part because I have to deal with my kids.
Okay.
But brethren, as always, this was an honor and a hoot. Have a delightful evening, and I will talk to you both very soon.
All right, Chris.
See you at your place.
Good night. Ciao.
Good night.
All right, bye.
Oh! First the imaginary gorilla, now this.
Yes. Once again, it's time for Muddle the Murd, our trivia segment here on Comic Geek Speak, where you can send in questions 3 to try to muddle the Murd, and if you are successful in doing so, you will win a prize. And we have a very large stash of artwork from an anonymous listener, donor, if you will. And in this segment, you will be playing for first a Katie Cook, Ahsoka Tano sort of work in progress, where there's some sketching around and actually some color added to it. So if you ever win this, maybe you can get her to finish it up. But because it's not a complete piece, we'll also be adding at no cost to you a original sketch by Grant Gould from his book Wolves of Odin. So we'll be playing for those prizes. And who's playing in this episode, you might ask? Or
I might.
You probably would want to
In fact,
know.
I do.
Trucker John from Michigan.
Oh.
This comes to us actually back from May of last year.
That's right. We met Trucker John at one of the Wild Pig events, didn't
Yes, we did, I believe.
Having a conversation with him about a species of exotic bird that his wife raises.
Okay. Anyway, here it is. He goes, "Hey guys, Trucker John here from Michigan. I've been a steadfast listener for years, but have just now gotten around to trying my luck against Adam. I know the best way to muddle the murder is to ask about issue numbers, and they're like, however, I'm going to save that bullet for another time if needed.
You're an honorable man.
Knowing Adam's supernatural recollection of names, I'm going to attempt to beard the lion in his own den. Names it is then. Question 1, Golden Age DC.
Oh, well now.
Al Pratt, the Atom, first appeared in All-American Comics number 19 from October 1940. He was a proverbial 98-pound weakling, always being bullied at school. Al had a crush on a young lady whom he desperately and impotently wished to impress. What was her name?
Mary James.
Mary Jane, without a moment's hesitation, folks.
I thought he was going to ask the name of his bully, which was Biff Bronson.
Oh, my God. Knock it off. Now you're making us all look bad. Anyway. All right, well.
They were all students at Calvin College.
We'll continue on. Question 2, Silver Age Marvel. Remo Williams. The Destroyer had a limited 4-part run in 1991, Volume 3. Remo was trained in the sun source of all martial arts, Sinaju, by Master Chuan. I hope I'm not butchering these names. As the sole member of the enforcement arm of a secret government agency called CURE, he is pit against his arch nemesis in the very first issue. What is this antagonist's name?
I don't think I've ever heard of this version of the Destroyer. Does he say 1991? Is that what he said?
Yes, 1991.
Oh, there we go. See, that's in that shadow zone just before I got into collecting comics. So stuff from like 89 through 91 tends to be a big blind spot for me. So long story short, I'm just going to say a word. Banana pants. It's a compound word, but
no, I'm sorry. That's not the answer he was looking for. The answer,
the
answer is, oh boy, Nihuic, Niuhc, Master Chuan's first student. That's Chuan spelled backwards.
Ah.
Now he says here, I assume Adam knows a 50-cent word for this type of palindrome-like construction.
Anonym. A-N-A-N-Y-A.
All right.
Form a word or name by spelling another word or name backwards.
Okay, like Harpo and Oprah.
Exactly. That's just the example I was thinking
See?
of, too.
They don't give these shows to chimps. All right, number 3, Modern Independent. Following the success of the Matrix movies, Burly Man Entertainment released a trade paperback called The Matrix Comics in 2003, a collection of shorts occurring in, out of, and around the Matrix universe. In the first story, credited to the
Wachowski?
Yeah, those guys
Well,
themselves.
I don't think they're guys anymore.
Well, that's right. I'm sorry. My mistake. I should have said that.
Back then they were, though. So.
That's correct. Set in the pre-robot apocalypse world, a robot is on trial for killing a human. In this 8-page story, the robot's name/designation is penned no less than 15 times. What is that robot's name/designation?
Sparky72.
No. Answer is B1-66ER.
Yeah.
All right, well...
There are too many numbers in that.
That's right. Well, you were not muddled.
Thank you, Mary James.
Yes.
And thank you, Trucker John, for giving me some excellent sport this evening.
Yes, so better luck next time. All right. Have you, as we go into TV a little bit, have you seen the new series Riverdale?
I made it a point not to watch it, actually.
Okay, why did you make a point not to watch it?
It did not look like a take on the denizens of Riverdale that I would be that interested in watching.
Okay, I can certainly understand that, because this actually premiered last Thursday on the CW, and I actually watched it because I was kind of curious about it. I knew going in it was sort of a darker take on the denizens of Riverdale, if you will.
Well, I would rather denizens, but...
What did I say?
You said denzians.
Oh, slip of the tongue.
I'm nitpicking.
Well, that's why you're here.
It's what I do.
It's what you do. I gave it a shot, and it wasn't great, but I actually enjoyed it, and I think I'm going to continue with it for a while.
That's all that matters. It doesn't have to be great as long as it's entertaining.
Yeah, it was entertaining. I mean, there was the elements of the, Betty, Veronica, Archie, triangle there. You see a lot of the people from the comics all these years. Josie, the Pussycats. Oh God, I'm drawing a blank. I should look at some of the cast.
Cheryl Blossom.
Oh yeah, Cheryl Blossom was very important.
You remember The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody?
I know of it. I don't say I would remember it.
Well, remember the twin boys that were like the stars there playing Zack and Cody. One of them is playing Jughead.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, one of the Sprouse twins.
Okay, let's see, that would be... Yep, you're right. Cole Sprouse is Jughead Jones. Oh, yeah, Reggie Mantle, Kevin Keller, Moose is in it. Geraldine Grundy has been de-aged, and oh my God, I had to take a cold shower after watching this. Good,
of course.
Good God Almighty.
First Aunt May and it's...
Wow.
Oh, yes.
But
the double whammy of ageism and sexism continues to thrive in Hollywood.
Yeah. I know that's a whole other topic which is way above my head. I just enjoyed it, for what it was. Like I said, it wasn't great, but I'm going to keep trying because there's an ongoing mystery in it because Cheryl Blossom's brother, Jason, is found dead at the end of the... Spoilers. Found dead at the end of the...
That's not a huge spoiler. I mean, that's kind of the crux of the whole series.
Right.
Really.
Well, I didn't see any previews for this damn thing. Actually, it was they showed it at Comic-Con last year. I didn't even go see it.
That was in the commercials that the CW was airing. So you haven't spoiled anything that the CW hadn't already.
Okay. But you got Luke Perry as
Archie's dad.
As Archie's dad.
Fred Andrews.
You're going to have at some point Molly Ringwald as Archie's mom.
Yes, because they're separated.
Right. You've got Machen and Mick from Twin Peaks as Betty's mother, Alice. Yes. Oh, I mean, Robin Gibbons is going to show up at some point. Apparently, it looks as the mayor of Riverdale and Josie's mother. Yeah, so I'm going to give it a shot. It was kind of interesting. Yeah, probably not my demographic that they're aiming for the CW. Like I said, I was like, oh my goodness, I'll be watching this, but
yeah, I don't think the CW cares if anybody our age watches anything they do. But well,
I mean, for goodness sake, I mean, you've got Supergirl, you've got Flash, you've got Legends of Tomorrow, you've got
Arrow,
you've got The 100 coming back, you've got iZombie coming back. All I seem to do is watch the CW shows. It's like, who would have thunk it?
They just keep making shows we want to watch.
Yeah.
How dare they?
And it's developed by the guy who's the chief creative officer of Archie Comics,
Roberto Aguirre Sacasa, who is also the writer of Afterlife with Archie.
Yes. So, I mean, they've taken the Archie characters in different directions before in the comics, so this is not necessarily out of the realm of their publishing empire. All right. Anything else we need to bring up for the show before we wrap it up, or are we all good?
Any recently read comics you'd wanted to spotlight?
Well, I can talk a little bit about Red Sonja #0.
Oh, by Paul Cornell.
No, by Amy Chu and Carlos Gomez.
Oh, well, I'm thinking of Vampirella #0,
yes.
which hasn't come out yet.
This was the 25-cent issue 0 comic that came out. Now, granted, it's only 16 pages of story and art. The second half is it's almost like all ads and sketches. I mean, there's ads. But hey, when he went for a quarter, it was really enjoyable. I hardly know anything at all about Red Sonja, but it looks as though she's being brought into the modern world, like literally a modern city towards the end. She comes through a sewer hole, great, and is apparently like in a big city here. I'm not sure if that's supposed to be a specific city.
It's New York.
That's kind of what I figured.
Yeah, that's the Ground Zero World Trade Tower.
Okay, that's what I thought. And, of course, to continue issue #1, so, of course, they tease you to bring into the #1 ongoing book. But it was enjoyable. It was a nice, simple story, having her go through the tunnel and thinking she's somewhere else and coming up to the surface. And I never heard of this artist before, Carlos Gomez, but he's really, really, really good art. So, I mean, will I pick up the rest of the series? I don't know. But I'm happy to read this issue 0. All right, and that will wrap it up here for this episode. I hope you enjoyed our off-the-rack picks. And do you know what the ones for December are that are the next one you're going to do?
Ooh.
Let me put you on the spot
It's going to be Supergirl Being Super,
okay,
#1.
I remember that.
The first issue of that miniseries from DC. Nova #1 from Marvel. And I think it was going to be Bionic Woman meets Wonder Woman 77 from DC and Dynamite.
Okay.
I believe those are the 3 December picks.
All right, so look forward to that coming up in the future episode of this podcast. All right, and once again, this episode is brought to you by superherostuff.com. You go to for all of your superhero stuff.
If you'd like to leave us a voicemail, the number to call is 267-702-6642. If you'd like to send us an email, we're comicgeekspeak@gmail.com. You can like us on Facebook. You can follow us on Twitter. Our handle is @comicgeekspeak. We'd like everybody who is so inclined to visit thecomicforums.vanillaforums.com to talk back about this episode and many others and join in some comic-related discussions with your fellow CGS listeners. It's also the place to go to participate in this year's Best of 2016
Oh, yeah, we should have plugged that.
awards
I'm so sorry.
voting. Well, we just did.
Okay.
There you go. We're having an award show for the Best of Comics in 2016. Go to thecomicforums.vanillaforums.com to find all the further details you need. We'd like to thank everybody who's donated to the show recently or in the past. Really appreciate it. Could not do the show without you. And as always, we are uniting the world's mightiest heroes, one listener at a time.
You got it on Wednesday, and you was talking about it going to the volume up. These guys will talk about it, everything that geeks love. From cakes to laser beams, opinions like the seasons on everything you read. And comics, movies, games, toys, artists, comic geek speak, comic geek speak, comic geek speak, comic geek speak, comic geek. Uniting the world's mightiest heroes. This is Comic Geek Speak.
And that's a wrap.
Mic drop.